Learn from the world's best all in one place with Masterclass, the only streaming platform where you can learn and grow with over 200 of the world's best. Masterclass always has great offers during the holidays, sometimes up to as much as 50% off. Head over to masterclass.com/Spotify for the current offer. That's up to 50% off at masterclass.com/Spotify.
By the time you're finished listening to this Pepsi Zero Sugar, you'll be 15 seconds closer to kickoff. Stock up now. Bengals game day is so close, you can almost taste it. Bengals watching. Better with Pepsi.
Okay, so picture this. You're a recruiter and you're looking at just tons of LinkedIn profiles. I mean, billions of them. How do you even start to find the right person for the job? And then flip that around. If you're that candidate, how do you get noticed? How do you make your profile stand out and practically scream, "Pick me"?
Yeah, right.
Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. It's all about making that LinkedIn profile work for you, especially if you're on the hunt for a new job.
Yeah, and the thing is, most people just don't use LinkedIn the right way. They treat it like just another social media platform. But it's so much more than that. It can be a really powerful tool, but only if you know how to use it strategically.
Exactly. And that's where this deep dive comes in. We're going to be breaking down this awesome YouTube masterclass. It's by LinkedIn expert Kevin D. Turner, and it's hosted by Bob McIntosh from Mass Hire Lowell Career Center. They share some absolutely amazing insights. Honestly, my own LinkedIn profile got a complete makeover after watching it.
That's great to hear. And, one of the first things Kevin talks about is how LinkedIn is really just a giant database. So to get found to be discoverable, you have to start thinking like a database.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it means using the right keywords, making sure everything's consistent, and really understanding how to use all of LinkedIn's features to your advantage.
So it's like speaking LinkedIn's language.
Exactly.
I remember one thing that really stood out to me was Kevin's focus on what he calls the top card. Your profile picture and that banner image. He says those are your first impression. And, well, for first impressions are everything, right?
Oh, absolutely. Your profile picture needs to be professional. It should be inviting. And make sure like 65% of that picture is your face. And don't forget about that banner image either. So many people just leave it blank. But you can really use it to visually represent your brand. You can even put your contact information right there on the banner.
Oh, that's a good idea. I've always wondered what to do with that banner space. I never even thought about putting my contact info there.
Yeah, it can be a really easy way for recruiters to get in touch with you.
That's really smart. And speaking of profile pictures, Kevin had this interesting tip about turning your head slightly in your photo. He calls it the one-ear shot. Why would you want to do that?
It's actually a really clever way to protect yourself from identity theft. Unfortunately, people can scrape LinkedIn for images. And if you have a straight-on headshot, that can be used to create fake IDs. Right. So just by turning your head a little bit, it makes it way harder for someone to steal your identity.
Wow, that's such a simple tip, but it's brilliant. I'm definitely going to change my picture after this. Okay, so let's talk about the headline. It's not just about SEO anymore. It's really about grabbing attention, especially when recruiters are looking at search results.
Right. And, Kevin actually uses humor in his headline. It says, "Brand land eliminating personal branding." It's memorable, it's intriguing, and it instantly tells you what he's all about. So instead of just putting your current job title, try adding a tagline or something that showcases your unique skills, or even just a touch of personality.
That's a great example. Definitely makes you want to learn more about him. All right, let's move on to location. Kevin really emphasizes choosing the broader metro area instead of your specific town.
Yeah, that's important. Think about it this way. You're casting a wider net for recruiters. So for example, if you're in the Boston area, putting greater Boston area as your location will make your profile visible to recruiters searching in that whole region.
That makes total sense. And he also says to stick to the locations that LinkedIn recommends.
Exactly. Just make sure that your profile shows up in the most relevant searches.
It's all about working within that database, right?
You got it.
Okay, so speaking of databases, the About section is where you really get to shine. Kevin actually says that recruiters and sourcers really do read this section. So it's like your elevator pitch. It's your chance to hook them and make them want to learn more.
Yeah, and the formatting is super important here. Recruiters are busy people. They're scanning profiles quickly, so you got to make it easy for them to digest the information. Use short paragraphs, bullet points. Kevin even suggests organizing those bullet points from longest to shortest, just for optimal readability. and always end with a clear call to action.
So it's like storytelling, but with a purpose. You're painting a picture of who you are and what you offer, not just listing facts.
Right, exactly.
All right, let's move on to the experience section. This is where Kevin really drops some serious knowledge. He talks about these things called market value filters.
Oh yeah, those are key. So those filters are LinkedIn's preset options for things like job titles, employment types and industries. Using them consistently is so important because it aligns your profile with how recruiters actually search.
So instead of just typing in your own unique job title, you should choose the closest match from LinkedIn's list.
Exactly. It's all about speaking the same language as the recruiters, but in the LinkedIn world.
I like that, speaking the same language. Okay, next up, skills. And Kevin says these are crucial for being discoverable. Get this. LinkedIn now lets you list up to 100 skills per experience entry.
That's right. The goal here is to include all the relevant skills that you have. It helps boost your searchability, and it increases those years of experience you have in each skill. Because remember, LinkedIn calculates how long you've been using a skill based on those experience entries.
That makes sense. And he had this fun idea for a skills party. What's that all about?
It's a great way to kind of boost those endorsements authentically. Basically, you team up with connections and endorse each other's skills, based on your real knowledge and experience.
That's such a cool idea. So as we're thinking about prioritizing our skills, we want to make sure we're giving those top 2 skills some extra love.
Absolutely. People tend to be a little lazy when they're scrolling, so those skills at the top are going to get the most endorsements. Just a little human behavior hack there.
I like it. All right, on to education. Kevin has an interesting take here. He says, be upfront about your education dates, even if it shows your age.
Yeah, it might seem counterintuitive, but he believes if a company is biased against age, you probably don't want to work there anyway.
Right.
So being transparent about your education dates can actually act as a filter to weed out companies that might not be a good fit.
That's a really empowering way to look at it. He also suggests focusing on the most recent and relevant 10 to 15 years of experience, if you have a long career history.
Right, it's all about showcasing the skills and experience that are most relevant in today's world.
Makes sense. All right, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, Kevin has a few more tips to make your profile really stand out.
Yeah, adding media to your experience entries is a great way to make things more visual, and it can boost your SEO too. Think about adding company logos, titles, links to company websites.
Oh, and don't forget about the projects section.
All right, that's a great place to showcase specific accomplishments and problem-solving skills. Things that might not fit neatly into your experience descriptions. And volunteer work can be a real asset too. It shows you're well-rounded and committed to your community.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. What stands out to you the most from this first part of the masterclass?
I think the biggest takeaway is that LinkedIn is a powerful tool, but it's only powerful if you use it strategically. So understanding how it works as a database and optimizing your profile accordingly, you can really increase your visibility and attract the right opportunities.
That's great advice. I'm definitely feeling more confident about my own LinkedIn profile now.
Awesome.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll dive into some more of Kevin's amazing tips for LinkedIn success. Stay tuned. So it's not just about stuffing your profile with a bunch of keywords. It's about actually understanding how recruiters are using LinkedIn and then making your profile match their search habits.
Yeah, you could almost think of it like a game, trying to figure out how to crack the code. But it's a game with some pretty real-world consequences. Because your LinkedIn profile, that's often your first impression with a potential employer.
That's true. And speaking of making a good impression, Kevin talks a lot about recommendations, something that a lot of people overlook, I think.
Yeah, recommendations are like gold on your profile. They give you that social proof, they add credibility to your skills and experience. It's one thing for you to say, hey, I'm great at this, but it means a lot more when somebody else is backing you up.
Definitely. And he suggests both giving and receiving recommendations to show that you're really engaged with your professional community.
Yeah, the two-way street. Right, when you recommend your colleagues and connections, they're more likely to recommend you back. Plus, it shows that you're willing to support other people and acknowledge their contributions. And I think that says a lot about your character.
It does. So this next point that Kevin makes is really important. It's not enough to just have a really polished profile. You have to actually use LinkedIn. You have to be active.
It's like, imagine your LinkedIn profile is a storefront. You spend all this time making it look amazing, showcasing all your best products. But if you never open the doors for business, well, nobody's going to come in.
So how do we open the doors, so to speak? What does it actually look like to be active on LinkedIn?
It's about being a real participant in that LinkedIn community. So follow the companies you're interested in, connect with people at different levels within those companies, and engage with their content, like comment share.
He even suggests like ringing the notification bell on company pages so you don't miss anything.
That's a great way to stay top of mind. And it shows that you're really interested. Recruiters, they notice who's engaging with their content.
And it's not just about connecting with people at the top right. You should reach out to people at all levels of the company.
Exactly. It helps you understand the organization better, get a feel for the culture. Plus, you never know what doors might open. You might get an informational interview, a mentorship opportunity, maybe even a connection to a job opening that hasn't been posted yet.
That's a good point. And Kevin shares this really interesting trick for targeting larger companies, the ones that use LinkedIn Recruiter.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. So if you go to a company's page and scroll down to the About section, a lot of times you'll see something that says, like, interested in working with us in the future. If you click on that, you're basically expressing interest in their hidden market. You know that pool of potential candidates they're considering for future jobs?
It's like a secret handshake for job seekers.
Exactly. It puts you on their radar.
Yeah.
And increases your chances of being considered for roles that might not even be advertised yet.
I like that. But what if I'm interested in working for like a lot of companies? Wouldn't I just get bombarded with notifications?
Yeah, Kevin addresses that. You can actually turn off all those I'm interested notifications right in your LinkedIn privacy settings.
Oh, that's good to know. So you can express interest in multiple companies without getting overwhelmed. Now, Kevin mentions this concept called the timed value of data. I'm not sure if I fully understand what he means by that.
It's actually a pretty simple idea. It basically means that the more recent the data is, the more valuable it is. So, for example, if you expressed interest in a company 6 months ago, and I expressed interest yesterday, a recruiter might think that I'm more interested, simply because my interest is more recent. It's like LinkedIn's database is a giant filing cabinet. And every time you update your profile or engage with a company, it's like you're moving your file to the top of the stack.
Ah, okay, I get it. So how can we use this timed value of data to our advantage?
Kevin recommends this really simple strategy. Just periodically turn off those I'm interested notifications and then turn them back on. It's like refreshing your interest in the system, and it makes you look like a more recent and therefore more valuable candidate.
So it's like giving your profile a little boost.
Exactly.
And he mentions that the same principle applies to the open to work feature.
That's right. By toggling that feature on and off, you're making sure your profile is constantly being refreshed. So you're always appearing as a new addition to the pool of available candidates.
So it's not just a set it and forget it kind of thing. We should be actively managing these features.
Absolutely. Taking an active role in your job search and using all the tools you have can really make all the difference.
This is all such great advice. I'm really starting to see LinkedIn in a whole new light.
It's all about shifting your perspective. We didn't think of LinkedIn as just another social media platform, but when you approach it as this powerful database and optimize your profile accordingly, that's when you really unlock its true potential.
Yeah, it's like trading in your old bicycle for a high-performance sports car. You're still getting from point A to point B, but the journey is just so much smoother and more efficient.
Exactly, and you have a lot more control over where you end up, too. I think the way Kevin reframes how we think about LinkedIn is really powerful. It's not just a place to post your resume. It's this dynamic tool that needs that active engagement and that strategic optimization if you want to really see results.
So if we were to take all of this advice and boil it down to like one key takeaway for our listeners, what would it be?
That's a good question. I'd say don't treat LinkedIn like an afterthought. Make it an active part of your professional life. Update that profile regularly. Engage with your network. Be strategic about how you're presenting yourself online. I like to think of it as your online career headquarters.
I love that analogy. It's your command center for career success.
Exactly. And don't forget, LinkedIn's always changing, so make sure you're staying up to date on all the new features and best practices.
Okay, so before we wrap up this deep dive, Kevin leaves us with this really thought-provoking question. He talks about the timed value of data and how that plays into keeping your profile fresh and relevant. What are your thoughts on that? How often do you think we should be tweaking our profiles?
That's a great question. There's no magic number. It really depends on your own career goals and how actively you're using LinkedIn. But I would say, at the very least, take a look at your profile every few months, make sure everything is still aligned with what you want to achieve, and that all the information is current.
And even small changes can make a difference, right?
Oh, absolutely. updating your skills, adding a recent accomplishment, even just engaging with an article. Those little things can signal to recruiters that you're active and engaged.
So as we're wrapping up this deep dive on LinkedIn profile optimization, what's one specific action you would challenge our listeners to take today to really level up their profiles?
Let's see. I'd say take a good look at your headline. Does it really capture what makes you unique? Does it make you stand out? If not, spend some time crafting a headline that's both compelling and uses those keywords. Remember, it's your first impression. Make it count.
That's great advice. So don't wait. Get out there and start optimizing your LinkedIn profiles. You got this.